to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is private money lending credibility packets. Diving into the world of private money lenders can be a game changer for real estate investors. When it comes to attracting these financial partners, your credibility packet is your superhero cape. It's not just about the numbers, it's about painting a vivid picture of your competence, reliability, and potential for mutual success. In your packet, break down your investment strategy, highlight your track record, even if you're just getting started, and emphasize your commitment to transparency. Showcasing your knowledge of the market and your meticulous planning can instill confidence in potential lenders. Remember, private money lenders are not just investing in your project, they're investing in you. Make them feel comfortable by being thorough, professional, and passionate in your credibility packet. It's the key to unlocking those financial partnerships and turning your real estate dreams into reality. If you would like to see my personal private money lending credibility packet, go to my business website, which is jolific.com. That's JOLIFIC.com, and click on Work With Us. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Dave Robertson from Upright. Upright, formerly known as FlipperForce, has an amazing all-in-one software that has the tools you need to analyze deals, estimate construction costs, and project manage every team and expense to maximize your profitability. I personally use Upright tools for property analyzation and project management and can no longer keep this a secret. I begged Dave to come on the show because this tool is going to change the way we flip houses. I'm so excited to get this party started, so welcome Dave Robertson.
All right. Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on.
You know, we had a little mix up in getting questionnaires and bios over, but I don't care. I was like, I'm just going to get this party started because this is Dave, and you are the founder, you're the creator, you are the man. I have not met you before, but I was like, celebrity on the show today. And you're going to tell us about, we're actually going to go through it together live. No pressure. But
yep. No pressure at all.
No pressure at all. I have so many questions because I've been using this tool and I love it. So anyway, enough about me loving this product. I want you to give us a little background on you. You used to flip houses. You created some spreadsheets. So tell us about you. How did you discover and create Upright?
Yeah, so I started flipping houses back in 2012, just really kind of as a part-time side hustle to make money on the side. So I was working full-time as a commercial construction cost estimator here in Kansas City, estimating construction costs for local new construction renovation projects. Wasn't really thrilled about that career path, never really wanted to work for the man. So that's where I always had an interest in real estate and thought, maybe I could get into flipping houses, watch the TV shows that they had on TV about flipping houses and thought this could be an interesting way to make some money on the side. So ended up buying my first house flip back in 2012. And this was something that I did a lot of the work myself, got my hands dirty, hired a general contractor. They didn't really show up a lot of the time. So ended up doing a lot more work than I really wanted to, but ended up being a pretty successful flip for me, made some money, and That's where I got kind of the house flipping bug and got interested in flipping and thought I could take it a little bit more seriously. And that's kind of when I started developing systems and tools and spreadsheets for myself to help me analyze the deal up front, estimate the costs, and then just kind of manage the entire process. And so that morphed into a pretty elaborate spreadsheet that I started selling online called House Flipping Spreadsheet, which eventually...
That's original.
Exactly.
Very creative.
I thought, if people are looking for a spreadsheet for flipping houses, why not just name the business House Flipping Spreadsheet? So believe it or not, that actually worked out pretty well. And so a lot of people downloaded that, and it kind of morphed into a side business in of itself, selling that spreadsheet online. And then decided eventually, several years later, to try to build it out as an actual web platform. And that's when we developed FlipperForce, which is our web-based deal analysis, project management, and accounting platform for house flippers.
And then it just recently had a whole revamping of the branding, and it's now called Upright.
Right. So yeah, that's right. I forgot we actually sold the company last year. So we got acquired by a company named FundThatFlip in March of 2022. So FundThatFlip is a big nationwide lender that funds house flips. So they acquired our FlipperForce software back in March 2022. And then just a couple months ago, we rebranded as Upright. So now FundThatFlip and FlipperForce are both called Upright, and we have, loans and software and passive investing opportunities with our new Upright brand.
And I've worked with FundThatFlip for several years, and they are by far the easiest lenders to work with. Fight me on it, people. I just absolutely love working with them. And I mean, look at this company. They want what is going to be most profitable for the investor. And then they teamed up with you with FlipperForce, and then you all have become merged together, and you have this amazing software. So you were talking about spreadsheets before. I currently use spreadsheets to do all my evaluating. And with me, I have to go from one spreadsheet to the other spreadsheet. I do my construction cost estimate on one spreadsheet. I take that number and I pop it over here. I'm telling you, this tool that you have created, there's nothing like it out there. I have been through quite a few. I've been a part of different education programs, and this one blew my mind. So if I have your permission, sir, I would love to evaluate a property. I put the sister property in this morning, so I want to, I'm going to share my screen. I know the listeners, you cannot see what I'm sharing here. But can you see my screen, Dave?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I can sure see it.
So what I want to do is really start from the beginning. I pulled up the property. I pulled up the Zillow listing, and I'm going to talk this through for the listeners. And this is a property that I would like to short-term rent. Okay. So this is also what made my mind go, oh my goodness, because when you are working with a spreadsheet, it is like a fix and flip spreadsheet, or it's a BRRRR spreadsheet, or it's this. What you do with your software is you start putting in the numbers, but then you choose what's your exit strategy. And what is I love is that I can change my exit strategy while we're going through this. So I have this property up. It is in Burgaw, North Carolina, yeehaw. And it's a cute little property that is on a river, which is Cape Fear River, which would be a great vacation rental. So while I have the listing pulled up, what are some of the numbers that we need so that I can enter it into, I keep wanting to call it FlipperForce. Sorry, I know you guys just switched it Upright. To put it into Upright Tools. So what numbers do I need from here?
Well, so I think one of the primary numbers is obviously the after repair value. So what do you think the property is going to be worth after you make the renovations to the property? So that's going to be a key one, even if you are holding it long-term as a short-term rental. Eventually, sometime down the road, you might want to sell it. And so just kind of thinking about what the property could be worth after you do the renovation to the property. Another one is that you'll want to enter is the potential purchase price. So our calculator actually goes through and recommends a maximum purchase price, but it also uses a known purchase price to calculate the profitability of the deal based upon that price. So it looks like there's a value here of about $335,000. The property actually looks like it's in pretty decent shape, so maybe that is close to the after repair value. Other things to consider is like if we thumb through some of these pictures, I guess, documenting the condition of the property or looking at whether the property is in good shape or not. The exterior looks pretty nice, but maybe the interior needs a rehab or a light rehab to get it up to whatever the standards are.
It's pretty nice condition, I'll tell you that.
So this one's almost like an as is. So maybe there's a light cosmetic rehab that you could do here. There's other costs that go into a real estate deal that sometimes people don't think about, which is like miscellaneous buying costs. When you buy a property, you're going to be paying some title fees, some insurance costs, maybe an inspection costs up front. You're going to have some holding costs while you're trying to renovate the property. So if it is like a 2-month rehab or a 1-month rehab just to get the property ready for listing, you're going to have some holding costs for like property insurance, taxes, maintenance, maybe if you got to mow the yard or do stuff like that, water bills. And then another thing to maybe consider is the selling costs on the back end. So again, even if you're not planning on selling it right now, eventually you're going to have to pay a real estate agent a commission on the back end. So like that is going to come out of your pocket eventually. So if you don't take that into account, your profit's going to look a little bit higher than it actually is, or your equity is going to look a little higher. So otherwise, financing costs could be another big expense. So however you plan on funding the project. So how do you think you would fund it? Would you be funding it with cash? Would you be using a hard money lender like Upright to fund the initial purchase and then renovation and then refinance on the back end? Or
yeah, definitely. I want to purchase with hard money, which would be Upright, and then use even private money in second position. Shh, don't tell anyone. And then we would refinance it after we get it up and running and stabilized. We refinance it. So, yeah, one of the things I know when the numbers I have to put into a spreadsheet is taxes. And that's what I can pull from a Zillow listing. So scroll down to towards the end. And this one, do you see these property taxes? Only $616.
Whoa, that's cheap.
It is cheap. So, a couple things about this property, and I won't get too deep into it, but this is an area of North Carolina that flooded terribly during the 2018, I don't even remember what hurricane it was. And so a lot of these houses have been sitting for a while, and then investors are now coming and snatching them up and then elevating them in case there's ever another massive flooding like they did. But anyway, so I pulled the taxes. For me, the ARV, and having looked through this, in a year from now, this is gambling a little bit, but I do see the ARV going up to about 400, only because of some other comps in the area. But I offered only $250 for this property. The asking price is $335, and we offered $250 just because there is some stuff that needs to be done. This one currently is on a septic, but there is a line run from the city to connect to sewer, which absolutely we would do in this situation. It does need a new roof, but as far as the inside, et cetera, there really is not too much more to do. Some plumbing issues, but pretty general there. So what I do from here is I will go into Upright Tools. Is that what it's called? Upright Tools? Or it's just?
Yeah, Upright Tools. So okay. That's what we're calling it.
All right. So now I'm on the Upright Tools page, and at the top, I'm going to add a project. All right. So Dave, stop me if I'm doing anything wrong here. And I'm going to start typing in the address, which of course I just lost. So there it is. I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want anyone to snatch this up, because we did offer a really low price.
I know what the address is.
All right. So then I will click on this, and I started typing the address and it starts pre-populating. Also another lovely feature, which you don't get on spreadsheets, PS. Then I'm going to click next. Yes. And then this is where I was like, oh, the very first time looking at this. So the next step here is strategy. and you can choose flip, new construction, or rental. And under the flip column, you have fix and flip, wholesale, and hotel, which I love. New construction is going to be either build to rent or new construction, and then rental, which is what we want to do. And again, there are not many tools out there that do this. The rental, I have the BRRRR strategy, buy and hold, just a plain rental or a short-term rental. So we're going to select short-term rental. Anything else in here that I should acknowledge here or?
Nope. Yep. You're just designating the strategy that you want to use. Yep.
And then the stage. So it's a lead right now. It's not a new lead. I've already contacted the seller. I've already walked it. I've already made an offer. So I'm going to choose offer made. And then you have another section here for active project. So if you are currently in the middle of a project and you want to now start using these tools, we have a project that we are in the middle of doing that Upright is actually financing for us as well. And we are in the under construction. And we're not going to get into the whole project management tool of this, which again is by far one of the greatest tools. You use Gantt charts. It's just so well done. My husband, who is the general contractor, he's the one who's managing this side of it. But I will tell you a great feature, Dave, that you use is every morning there's an email sent to his inbox of what steps need to be done for that day. And there's a whole timeline. And for people that have 5 projects going on, this is so amazing to keep you super organized. Do you want to add anything about the project management aspect of this? We're just analyzing today, but it also has a whole project management tool. So go a little bit into that. I just gave some quick basics, but tell us about the management tool.
Yeah, so Upright Tools has different ways for you to manage all of your different projects that you have, depending on what stage they're in. So right now we're analyzing a deal, and so we've got tools that you can use to analyze a deal. But once you get the property under contract, that's when these other stages come into play, where you've got an active project, which is under construction. And once you got a project that's under construction, you can use a project management functionality to create a project schedule to help plan out your renovation. You can track your project expenses to keep your project on budget. You can upload photos, manage your documents, basically anything and everything that you'd want to do to keep your project on time and on budget. That's really what functionality we offer for active projects under construction. And then we also have like a portfolio stage there where you can manage all of your successfully completed projects and just kind of have an archive of all the projects that you've completed in your entire business history that you can have right there at your fingertips. So
there's one thing on here that is also very mind-blowing to me is there is a material catalog. So I know me, for example, I always paint everything alpaca, Sherwin-Williams alpaca. It's a grayish that can go either beige or gray, depending on what's around it. So you have a whole material catalog. So when you start doing your scope of works, which by the way, this tool also does for you, you can just go into your material catalog that you've used on a previous project and say, I want to do the same faucets, the same fixtures, and then just literally move them over to another project. So that is amazing. I also want to add that you can put in your contracts in here and reuse your contracts over and over again. It's a whole library just to keep everything in one place. I feel like the disconnect for real estate investors before was I had a spreadsheet over here for this. I had a spreadsheet over here for this. Everything is in one place, which I just love. Anything else you want to add to the project management side of it? Because I get very excited.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like a lot of real estate investors are just using spreadsheets. And so they've got a deal analysis spreadsheet. They got a estimate spreadsheet. They've got an expense tracking spreadsheet. And then, they've probably got a material catalog spreadsheet or something with all their commonly used materials. And then they've got those spreadsheets for that specific project. But the problem is if they have 5 different projects going on, now they've got 5 different spreadsheets with multiple tabs in those spreadsheets. And then it's hard to juggle. And spreadsheets aren't really like a actual database, like all the data is within that single spreadsheet. So using a platform like Upright Tools, like that material catalog, that's a central material catalog for your entire business. So if you've got materials that you're using over and over again on all of your projects, you can just reference that same material catalog. You can easily pull that into your estimate and scope of work to help you build a material list and a shopping list for your project. And so just it saves a lot of time, helps you get a lot more organized, so you're not juggling a whole bunch of different spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are good, but they're super customizable, but the user interface of them isn't overly great. And so there's a lot of things that web applications like ours just provide a better user experience in general. So
well said. Thank you, Dave, for that. And listeners, you could tell I'm super excited about this. So we have this uploaded now. Now we are going to get into the actual analyzation for this property in Burgaw. So go over here first to analyze the rental. Should I do that, or estimate repairs? Yep. Okay.
Yep. Click on Analyze Rental.
So I'm going to click Analyze Rental, and it starts. Do you want to talk through this and just tell me what to put in here, or?
Well, yeah, we can kind of talk through the overall numbers that you can enter, and you can go ahead and start plugging them in if you want. But basically, the way that our calculators work is, especially our rental calculator here, is it's broken down into two phases. So the very first phase is you're analyzing the buy and the rehab. So you're basically saying, how much can I buy this property? How much renovation does it need? And how much equity, short-term equity, is that going to build into this deal by basically buying a property at a discount, renovating the property, and increasing the property value by doing a nice renovation? So how much short-term equity are we building into this BRRRR, or in your example here, short-term rental? So that's going to calculate how much short-term equity you're building in. And then the second phase is really diving into the ongoing rental income, operating expenses, to calculate the cash flow. And so the first phase, to calculate your short-term equity, it's basically just taking your after repair value, how much you think you can resell the property for, how much you think it's going to be worth after repairs, and subtracting out all of your costs. So how much you purchased it for, how much the renovation is going to be, what your buying, holding, selling costs are, how much your financing costs are for your short-term hard money loan, and then that'll calculate your profit.
Okay, so I want to break this down a little bit. Like, for example, they have a tab on here to put in the tabs are ARV. You put in the ARV, and I said it's going to be about $400,000. Purchase price, they're asking $330,000. I lowballed and did $250,000. I just feel like it's the time of year where I can get it at a much lower rate. The comps do justify that I can get it at $250,000 for this, in this area. And I also feel like the flooding scares off a lot of buyers. So that's why that was my idea of going in low. Then rehab, I'm just going to do a flat rate. So you can your options are to do a lump sum. You can do a price per square foot, which this is awesome right here. There are people who say if it needs a full gut job, it's going to be $70 a square foot. And that's just how they analyze things. If it's just lipstick job, it's going to be say $10, $15 a square foot, whatever it is. Then there's also a detailed rehab cost. And then that will take you into your repair estimator, which I'm not even getting into. So I'm just simply doing a lump sum of $50K, which I don't even think it's going to need that much, but I always like to overestimate. And then we have our fixed costs that you want to put in. And this is where I am going to go into the detailed section instead of just doing a lump sum, because it's not even in here. So it breaks it down to your buying costs, which is your brokerage fee, your inspection costs, appraisal fee, title search, etc. And then I forget where you put in the taxes. I thought that was in the fixed costs. Do you remember?
The taxes are going to be in the holding cost section below. So
there it is.
It actually, if you do a breakdown there of your monthly property taxes, it's going to multiply the monthly property taxes by your holding period. So however long you think it's going to take to do the renovation. And then that's going to calculate your total holding costs for your property taxes. So if it takes 6 months and your property taxes, I think, are only $50 a month. So not going to be a big number, but 6 months times 50 would be it'll end up calculating $300 basically.
So one thing in here, when I'm putting in property taxes from Zillow, it says it was $616 a year. And they have a little drop down to choose if you want to do a monthly amount or a yearly amount. So I do love all this flexibility in here. Utilities, what you think your average utilities are going to be, your insurance, HOA dues, if there's HOA, maintenance, etc. So those are your holding costs. And then selling costs. So my question here, I'm not planning on selling it. So do I fill this out, or is this where I would put?
Generally, I always put selling costs in there because I guess, for example, if your strategy changed and you ended up not holding it, you'd want to take that into account, the selling cost, because you will have to pay a seller's commission if you sell it. So that's kind of where it's like, yeah, you're not going to encounter those selling costs up front if you hold it for 10 years, but eventually you're going to have to pay that. So like, that's a cost that you're going to have to pay at some point. So I always just plug that in.
Got it. So what should I put in here for my selling costs?
You can do a percentage there. So again, we've got flexibility to where you can do a detailed breakdown of your selling costs. And like, if you really want to dive into the weeds of like, I'm going to pay 3% for a buyer's commission and 3% for sellers, you can do that. Or you can just plug in like overall 7% or 6%, whatever you want to do, which will just multiply that percentage by the after repair value to quickly calculate roughly what your selling costs will be. So.
And by the way, there's also a button here that says learn more in each section, and it will take you to a quick little video on how to do all this. So what do you think a percentage of the resale?
Yeah, so
what was the number you said?
I would say 6 to 8%. So if you are going to be using an outside real estate agent and like, you're going to have to pay the buyer's commission at 3%. You're going to have to pay for your seller's agent commission at 3%. Then there might be another 1 to 2% on top of that.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I told my husband I always wanted to sleep with a real estate agent. And instead of him asking which one, he went and got his real estate license.
So you can save 3%.
So we only have to do the
smart.
Yeah. So I'll put in 3% right there. All right. So financing section. Again, this is a short-term rental. It's going to be a buy and hold eventually. But in this first part, which is more of our BRRRR type strategy, do I choose cash purchase or bridge loan?
So if you were going to be just buying it cash with your own money, then you could just leave it at a cash purchase, and that'll just assume that you're not going to have any financing costs up front. If you switch it to bridge loan, that's where you can set up the short-term bridge loan for working with a hard money lender to fund the purchase and repairs of the property. So we've got some different options in there to pre-select some different values. So however your lender is structuring the deal for you, you can plug that in and it'll get you pretty close to whatever your lender's going to charge you for financing costs, interest payments, and stuff like that. So,
and I love how you said pretty close, because it is hard to like nail this number down to the penny, but you can absolutely get close. And that's the other thing with spreadsheets is there's not much flexibility in there. Some hard money lenders will do, say, 80% of the purchase price, but 100% of the rehab budget. Then like FundThatFlip, which is now Upright, they will do an LTV, which is a loan to value. And so you have these options in here to manipulate any way you want. So let's say I'm using, I keep wanting to call them FundThatFlip, Upright, and we're doing a loan to value. So what would I put in here? I think they do 70%.
Yeah, so the current option that you've got there is loan to purchase amount. So yeah, if the loan to value of the purchase amount is 70, 80%, whatever that amount is. So basically, in other words, if it's a $100,000 purchase and you've got 80% loan to value, they're giving you 80 grand and you'll have to come to the table with 20. And then if they're funding 100% of the repairs there, you can just leave it at 100. And that's just saying, hey, you got to bring 20% up front for the purchase, and then we'll fund everything else.
So the total loan amount for that first one is going to be $225, but I still need money to come to the table. So I can go up here to add a loan, and this is where I'm going to put in a private money lender. So that remaining 30% of that purchase price we'll put in there, and then I'll remove the repairs because the other one is doing
there's
repairs.
actually a purchase option at the top if you don't want to include those repairs. So if you click on that one, that'll only include the purchase amount, and there you go.
Oh, it's so nice having the guy who created this on my podcast today. See, I'm learning so much. And then I didn't do this. So the first loan, I need my loan terms. So that you put in my first loan again for the listeners is going to be my hard money loan, which we're doing a 70% of the loan to value. And so our annual interest rate is, I think it's about, I think they're about 11.5% right now.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Okay. And for this, when you go to refinance a short-term rental, some banks want to see what's called a seasoning period. Thank you. So that could be 6 months to a year, depending. And even with short-term rentals, so this is why this part is so important, because people think, oh, I can get it for this, it'll make this much money per month, but there is the financing cost, because 11.5% is a high amount for a loan, but they're taking on a lot of risk. So number of payments here, number of monthly payments. I'm going to say the rehab will take maybe 3 months. We'll start getting renters in there. So let's just put it at a year. And then points, let's say they charge 2 points. Other costs, can you think of any other costs?
There might be an appraisal fee in there, whatever, but yeah.
We'll put it 800. All right. So then I have a short term, then I hit next, and the next one is showing me my short-term equity, which is my profit. Right. And this is where it spits out what's called a MAO, your maximum allowable offer. So they give you a recommended maximum purchase price. And this, Dave, tells us if we wanted to make 0 in equity, that's the number that we could ask, correct?
Yeah, so there's 2 numbers that are calculated once you get through this first flow. So it's basically saying if you buy the property for $400,000, or you buy it for, I think, $250,000, and it's going to be worth $400,000 after you renovate it, put $50,000 in it, do all these costs, you're going to have $55,000 in short-term equity. So right now it's looking like a pretty good deal, because if you can buy it for that price, you'll have $55,000 in equity in this short-term rental. You can also add in your desired amount of equity or profits. So let's say, for example, it's kind of competitive out there and $55,000 is kind of a lot of equity, and maybe you're bidding against somebody else. Like, you could enter the desired amount of equity. So maybe you only want to have $20,000 in equity. If you typed in $20,000 in equity, or maybe you don't even care about the equity because you're more focused on the cash flow, like, yeah, you could just plug in 0 there. But if you want a little bit of equity, you could plug that in, and now it's going to recommend a purchase price. So if you only want to make $20,000 in equity in the deal, it's recommending that you could offer up to $285,000. So
it actually went down, because before I was making 50.
Yep. Well, so this is a completely separate calculation from the one above. So if you're buying it for $250,000, then you're going to make 55. And then this is where you're like, okay, I don't necessarily need to make 55. I just want to make 25 in equity up front. Tell me what I should offer, or what I can offer up to.
Got it.
So
got it. Reversed it there for me. Okay.
Yep.
So now this is great. So I go to refinance it in a year. I'm walking away. If it appraises for $400,000, I'm walking away with 55.
Yep. You'll have $55,000 in equity. Yep.
Sweet. True BRRRR strategy. Now, phase 2. Dave, this is where I get confused, and it looks like I'm losing money, and I just don't know how to enter some of these numbers in properly. So this is where you're going to earn your money today, Dave.
Okay.
Helping me through this. So we completed phase 1 of the buy and rehab, which is the short-term equity. This is what gets us up to the point when we go to refinance it out of our hard money loan, out of our private money loan, and put it into our business name. And it's under our, we create an entire LLC for it so that it's protected. This is phase 2. So the rent and refinance section.
Yep.
All right. So tell me, I'm just going to have you just tell me what to do in here, because I get confused.
Yeah, so there's 4 different steps in this phase 2 section, but basically the overall goal here is to calculate the net cash flow you can generate once you rent it out as a short-term rental. So the first step is rental income. So how much you think you can generate on a monthly basis as a short-term rental. And then you can also have vacancy losses there. So go ahead and enter whatever you think that short-term monthly rental income would be.
All right. So this is very important to the listeners out there. When you are evaluating a short-term rental, I always want to kind of factor in if Airbnb goes away, if it gets outlawed that they're not allowed to do short-term rentals in an area. I think Manhattan just recently outlawed short-term rentals. I know they're talking about it in North Carolina and the Outer Banks. They want to get rid of short-term rentals. So for me to purchase this and make sense, it has to make sense as a long-term rental. And honestly, it doesn't. But what I do is, because I think long-term rental, we can maybe make $2,000, which is not going to hold over what we need for this property. As a short-term rental, how I calculate it is I do just 50% occupancy. You can go onto all these other sites that are going to tell you, what the going rates are in the area, what this and that. This is a vacation rental. I'm going to make mine stand out so that people go, I want to sit on that deck by that water and go tubing, whatever. I want to create this whole experience. So anyway, I do the bare minimum. I know I'm very long-winded on this, and I'm estimating $150 a night because I went on Airbnb and saw what the other ones were renting for in the area. And I only multiply that by 15. So 150 times 15 is going to be $2,250 a month. That's the bare bones of what I think I'm going to make on this property, $2,250. And again, anything on top of that is going to be fantastic. So rental income, there's a section here to put in the monthly rate. So I just put $2,250. Anything else I need to put on here? And there's vacancy. I'm not really going to put in anything because, this is a short-term rental.
Yep. So you've already got vacancy kind of calculated because you're only assuming 15 days out of 30. And so if that's in your current calculation of your rental income, then yeah, you can just skip that step.
Okay. Perfect. So then I'm going to hit next. And now we're going to get into expenses. So tell me what to do here.
So there's a couple different options for operating expenses. There's a percent of rent, and that's really kind of like the 50% rule. So if you were just wanting to do like a quick analysis of a deal, you could just plug in 50% or 40% of the rental income, which is just kind of like a general rule of thumb there. So that's one of the quick calculation strategies you can use, or you can click on itemized and do a detailed breakdown of all of the property taxes and stuff. So I think you entered some of this information previously, so it doesn't copy over, but like some of this stuff like utilities might be, once you get it stabilized, who knows, utilities might be paid by the tenant. I guess since it's a short-term rental, maybe not, but you can just do a detailed breakdown of all of the operating expenses and costs there. And then finally, once you do that, it's going to calculate your net operating income on a monthly basis and an annual basis for the property.
So I can already tell I screwed up here because it's definitely not going to be 50% of the rent, so now I just did a huge whoo, because when I evaluated a different one, I kept it at 50%. So This is definitely a lot different. So out of the 150 nightly rate, let's just say, because you have a cleaning fee in there. So let's call it, 5% of the rent.
Yep. So there's repairs and maintenance. There's property management in there too. So those are some other things to maybe consider.
I'm going to put in Airbnb charges 3%. Actually, I'm going to put in 4% because I also use Beyond Pricing. So good. I'm glad I had a little spot for that. Excellent. Much better numbers here. All right. So operating expenses. Thank you, Dave, for saving this property for us. Because I got to this and I clearly did not read it properly and I was losing rent on the other one. All right. So now we have our capital expenditure allowance. So what is this section for? Your CapEx.
So this is assuming that maybe you need to want to put away or set aside some money every single year of rent for anticipated capital expenditures that you need to do to basically improve the property. So if you're buying this property and you're already renovating it and it's going to be in like great shape when you turn it into a rental, like maybe you don't need to allocate a lot of costs here, but this would probably be a situation where if you had an older house and you anticipated a bunch of repairs coming down the road, like you want to maybe assume that in your initial analysis because you will have ongoing repairs for like fixing a roof at some point or like replacing windows or stuff like that. So that's what the CapEx allowance is for.
All right. Well, for fun, I'm not going to put anything because I feel as a short-term rental, it is just going to go up and up and up as far as rents. And then we will use those rents to pay for expenses. I know that's probably horrible of me to think that way, but we're doing it. All right. So next is the refinance. So we have two different refinancing strategies here. Again, another reason why this is such an amazing tool. Do I want to keep cash invested in the deal instead of refinancing, or do I want to refinance the loan? And yes, we definitely need to refinance the loan. So I'm going to select that one and then refinance the loan amount. So tell me what to do here. Am I going to do the ARV?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got a couple options. You could just enter whatever loan amount you want there, or you can do it based upon the previous ARV that you entered in there. And so if a DSCR lender or whoever is going to give you 75% of the ARV, you can just use that option and that'll calculate the loan amount that you'll be getting from your lender there.
All right. So when you are calculating this, you put in your after repair value, which again, I'm assuming it's going to be $400,000. A bank will typically finance 75% of the loan to value, whatever it is. What is the word I'm trying to say? Appraised at. And then, so that leaves us with, they're going to finance $300,000. Now, say we only owed $260,000. I would get $40,000 back at closing, correct?
Yep.
Yes. If we only owned, okay. Got it. All right. And then the refinance terms, we're going to have a much better rate. So we're going to say 7% in a year from now. The rates will go down a hair. Dave, you're smiling.
Yep.
We can hope they go down.
That. Yeah.
Loan terms, I'm going to put it at a point. No, I'm going to put 2 points just to overestimate. Oh, wait. No,
That's
sorry. Loan term. So we're going to do a 30-year fixed. I'm going to put in 2 points here. Other costs. What type? Oh, see, look at
just
that.
Leave that.
Okay. So leave other costs. See, this is where I start getting a big red thing coming up here. So this is where I get nervous. But I have the man on here.
You've got long-term debt service. So that's obviously your monthly mortgage payment at around $2,000. I think if you go back to the previous screen, or maybe if you just scroll up, it'll show us what our net operating income was before that. And so net operating income was $1,600 before we took into account our debt service. And so now that we've got $2,000 a month in debt service, that's when it starts to look red, unfortunately. So it looks like it's about $300 a month in the red at that point. And so, you can always go back and look at the numbers to see if maybe the rental income could be a little higher, or operating expenses are too high, or maybe there's something you can do on the financing side of things. But obviously you don't want to fudge the numbers too much, because that's when you start to get into trouble. So
and thank you for saying that, because I was like, oh, well, summer months we're definitely getting more. And numbers don't lie, people. And when I was going through this, and I put in my final numbers here, it popped up red that I was going to be losing. But remember, I only put in half the month and say it's at 80% occupancy. So I'm short $366 a month. So that's really basically 2 more nights of it getting rented. It also doesn't include when you use a dynamic pricing tool. In summer months, it may be $300 a night to stay there, whatever it is for it to offset in between here. But still, putting my fork in this one, nope, this is not a deal. I do not want to be losing $366 a month, because short-term rentals is such a volatile business right now. We really don't know where it's going into the future. It has slowed down quite a bit. There's saturation, etc. I do feel like the destination Airbnbs are doing a lot better than other ones. So, Dave, going back to this, now I can turn around and say, well, would this work as a long-term rental? And we know it doesn't. But that's how easy this tool works, is I can just tab between projects and say, or not between projects, and say, now I want to do it as just a buy and hold. Does it make sense? Or now, so you can change your exit strategy. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the reason why we have it broken down in those 2 phases too is so now you can see, okay, if maybe we don't want to do a short-term rental or a long-term, but if you remember, if in that very first phase, we had short-term equity of like $55,000. So like that tells me that that's actually a pretty good flip. Like if you could make $55,000 on this project, then like maybe you should just hold it as, or maybe you should just sell it as a flip, because it doesn't make sense as a long-term rental. So that's where this could still be a good deal. It's just not probably a good short-term rental deal. So.
Well said. And I think that's a great place to wrap this up, because I could talk to you for another 3 hours on this, because I just get giddy over a tool like this. So for the listeners out there who are chomping at the bit like I was when I first got my hands on this, how do they sign up for Upright?
Yep. So you can just go to upright.us. Again, that's upright.us, or just search. You could even search probably our old name, FlipperForce, and we'll pop up. And so we're now Upright Tools, and so you can sign up for a completely free trial on our website. So we do have a 30-day free trial, no credit card required. So you can go ahead and test out the system, see if it'll work for you. Start playing around with it, and reach out and support if you have any questions or anything. So,
and you guys are so easy to work with too. In addition to, they were FundThatFlip before, now it's Upright, and you guys are all under the same umbrella. They are so easy to work with. This tool is amazing. The goal of your company is to put more money back into the investor's pocket so that we keep coming back for more and more. So I appreciate you sharing this. We're going to go into the second part of the podcast here, which, Dave, I'm so impressed with you, and thank you for creating this tool. But I use the acronym BADASS, and what makes Dave a badass, which clearly you are. And the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I would say like a real estate specific book, or maybe books, are a couple of books that were written by a guy named Jay Scott. So when I was originally getting into house flipping and just kind of doing this as a side hustle, there's a lot of fear and anxiety about like, how do you actually flip a house? Like, what do I need to do? What are all the numbers that go into it? And so like Jay Scott's the book on flipping houses, that was kind of the Bible of flipping houses that I used to help me get started. And then also the book on estimating rehab costs. So I actually knew quite a bit about estimating rehab costs just from like being in construction for several years, but like he laid it out pretty easily in that book. And I always recommend that book and the book on flipping houses to people that are really wanting to get into the house flipping or are really struggling to understand how to estimate rehab costs. I think that's a big question for people. So I would recommend those two books for people that are specifically getting into real estate flipping. So,
and we didn't even talk about the estimating rehab costs tool on Upright, which, by the way, you with your background in construction and knowing these costs, how often is that updated? Because again, when you have a spreadsheet and my painter went from $2 a square foot to $225, I had to physically change the number in there. But you at a national level, you give like estimated what some cost would be?
Yeah. So we do have a database of common repair categories and repair items that you could run into on your house flip. So we have 3 different templates that come preloaded with that information. It comes pre-built with labor pricing and material pricing. So, material pricing and labor pricing kind of varies depending on where you're at. But for the most part, we've heard that our pricing that we provide gets them in a range. And that's kind of the idea, is get you close. And then obviously, if you want real numbers, you need to be talking to your local contractors to get the real labor pricing. If you want real material pricing, go to Lowe's and Home Depot, pick out the actual materials that you want to install in your house flips and put those into your estimate. And then you can save a template. So that's another the beauty of it, is you can save your templates and reuse them on all of your projects and save all those costs that you've got, so you don't have to redo it every time. So,
and for the new people in real estate investing, that's such a huge battle right there, is determining what the rehab is actually going to cost. So again, that's a whole nother portion to this tool that is amazing. And you get very educated round numbers of what something is going to cost, including labor and materials, which is huge. All right, back to you, Dave. Back to being a badass. So the first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think embrace failure. So no matter how good of a plan you think you have, no matter how good you think you've analyzed the deal, like that deal that we analyzed, there's a very good chance that something's going to go wrong or something's not going to go according to the way that you analyze that deal or the way that you planned. And so I think the reality is that you should embrace failure and embrace those challenges and just try to learn from them. So that way you can grow from those failures and challenges going forward. So
I love that. Very well said. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives Dave to be successful?
I think freedom. So freedom, financial freedom, being able to basically do whatever I want. I think also time freedom. So being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. That was the main motivation for really starting to flip houses, was getting out of the rat race, not working for the man anymore, starting my own business and being able to do anything and everything. So like that's always been kind of my drive, is to just own my own business. So that way I can control my own schedule, control what I can do. So.
And I see your background there. So do you spend your time going to the Taylor Swift football games?
That's right. I actually did go to a Taylor Swift football game last weekend. I went to the Chargers game. So there she was. She was over there probably 100 yards from me, and I could see her. I couldn't keep my eyes off her. I didn't even know a football game was going on. So it's cool.
He has all this Kansas City Chiefs stuff behind him. So anyway, I had to throw that out there. And I mean, I don't want to jinx it. By the time this gets released, I hope they're still together. Anyway, just my...
Yeah. Me too.
All right. Because he's doing well, isn't he?
Yeah, really well.
All right. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you're currently working on?
Since we've been acquired by Upright, we've got a shared business goal, I would say, to become the predominant real estate platform for real estate investors to manage their entire real estate business on Upright tools. And we also want to be the predominant lender that can help our real estate investor clients scale their business. So, I think that's our overarching goal as a business, is to continue to develop our current platform that we build, Upright Tools, but also offer new products and opportunities to really provide like an end-to-end solution, no matter what type of investment strategy you're doing. It could be flipping, it could be rentals, it could be short-term rentals. So basically being the number one name in the industry for that. So.
Well, I fully feel that is coming down the pike, because again, it is so hard to keep this a secret. And I was just like, give me someone on my podcast, please, because I need to share this with everyone. That's how amazing this tool is, and the partnership you have with the lenders as well. The first S in badass is for systems, and you are definitely a systems guy. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Yeah, so I think some of this is probably obvious, being that I developed Upright Tools and FlipperForce. So as far as systems for flipping, spreadsheets are obviously a good one if you're just wanting to start out. Spreadsheets are customizable, you can play around with it. But what I noticed was I spent way too much time building spreadsheets and not working on my actual business. And so that's where something like Upright Tools is a great system for managing deal analysis, project management, general business stuff, like just having overall dashboards to manage all of your different projects in your pipeline. I think there's some other great tools out there for deal sourcing or deal finding, like Deal Machine, open letter marketing for sending direct mail, stuff like that. Stuff like QuickBooks accounting, like right now, Upright Tools isn't a complete accounting solution. So obviously having a real accounting solution like QuickBooks is good. And then as far as funding, Upright can be your funding resource as well. So
I know you're never really supposed to reveal prices on podcasts, because someone could be listening to this a year from now and prices will go up. But currently, right now, what do you charge? Again, this is why it's so mind-blowing to me. What do you charge monthly for Upright Tools?
Yeah, so we have a couple different pricing plans. We've got a solo plan, which is for one single individual, which is $79 a month. And that's
$79, people. I was just getting so excited, because just for $79 a month, you are going to save so much money by getting so organized, and little checklists, those emails you get during your project, those daily emails, that just reminders of what needs to be going on, is worth $79 a month. We don't even need to go into the other prices, but that's why I just wanted for you to announce that. And again, a year from now, it will probably go up, which it should be, because this is like amazing. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep.
All right. The final S in badass is for success. And man, you are making me successful, but I want to know, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to drive. I think I kind of already talked about what my personal drive is, and it was really freedom. So financial freedom, time freedom. And so, success isn't necessarily the amount of dollars that I have in my bank account, but it's more so like, how much freedom do I have to do whatever I want? And so that's what my definition is like, do I have freedom to hang out with my family whenever I want? Do I have freedom to hang out with my friends? Can I go travel whenever I want? So that's kind of how I see success, not necessarily dollars in a bank account, which certainly help, but that's how I see success.
Well, with as amazing this tool is, I see that getting only bigger and bigger. So get a couple bank accounts to hold all that money in there. So Dave, this has been such a pleasure. One more time, how do people find Upright Tools?
Yep, you can just go to upright.us, and from there you can click on Upright Tools. We also have other options there for funding and passive investing opportunities for crowdfunding. So just, again, go to upright.us.
Not com, but US. So
yeah, don't go to .com. It's not the right company.
So Dave, this has been amazing. I've had a celebrity. You are just so up here for me. And I am so grateful to you for creating this tool and making my life so much easier. So Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. Sure. Yeah. No, thank you for having me on. So it was fun walking through that project with you. So. Absolutely. And it's a no-go, by the way. So Thank you. Unless I raise the rents, we can still tweak things around there. But anyway, Dave, thank you. And that is all. Thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.